tourism layer, the shopping layer, the where the ATMs layer. There's like thousands of layers. The old web, you surf the web. The new web, you're surfing the real world. We have the rise of web services. You know, Thomas Watson was famously to have said that the world will only need 5 or 6 computers. And everyone's laughed at Watson. You know what? Unbeknownst to him, he was probably right. He's pretty close, off by 1 or 2. What do we got? We've got the Google computer and the Amazon computer and the HP computer and the Apple. They announced their computers. These are all clouds, right? And the internet's becoming a computational platform. You go onto Flickr, as I did, and I put a picture of my puppy up there. It asks for a name. So I type in Bernese Mountain Dog. In technical terms, I created an XML tag. And I just programmed the internet. That tag links up with 934 other Bernese Mountain Dog owners, and I'm finding out why my puppy eats sticks and has digestive problems. So, and the big thing for a CIO is that the internet is now integrating with real IT. In the past, you didn't have to worry about it. The only way these things came together was around this thing called the intranet. Well, now we all have this big computer, or 4 or 5 computers, that we can move IT onto, and that's a big challenge. Now, those of you who are at the main session, I made a joke about that. I said that and I know some of you in this room, you have systems that are old enough to vote and drink. And there is this little detail called the legacy, I know, and Leo talks about hybrid computing. And it's a challenge. God may have created the world in 6 days, but you know, he didn't have an installed base. So number 2 is that this technology revolution is intersecting with a demographic revolution. The children of the baby boom are the first generation to come of age in the digital age. They're different. Who has kids or grandchildren under the age of 33? Okay, well, that's a very prolific group. I can be brief on this point, right? I started studying kids about 15 years ago when I noticed how my own children were effortlessly able to use all this sophisticated technology. At first I thought my children are prodigies, and then I noticed that all their friends were like them, so that was a bad theory. So I started working with 300 kids. In '97 I wrote this book, and I wrote the sequel 3 years ago. This is the first generation of digital natives. I'm a digital immigrant. I had to learn the language. And it's the first time in history when children are an authority about something really important. I was an authority about model trains when I was 11, and today the 11-year-old is an authority on this digital revolution that's changing every institution in society. So I'm actually running out of time. I'll be happy to talk to you informally about this, but just an example. This is a big group. There was the World Congress on IT, and I interviewed these youngsters, and out of the mouths of babes. On the left, there's, her name is Rahaf Harfouch. She was 21, and she was studying in Paris. Her boyfriend's in Toronto, so they turn on video Skype all day long to keep their relationship going. I asked her, do you use email? And she said, oh, no, Mr. Tapscott, email is yesterday's technology. And I said, well, if you did use email, what would you use it for? She says, email, that's sort of like a formal technology, say for sending a thank you letter to one of your friend's parents. That would be a good use of email. On the right there is Michael Furtick. He's the granddaddy of them all. He was like 28. I've known Michael since he was 13 when he was the project manager on my website, growingupdigital.com. They made him the project manager as a 13-year-old because he was the oldest and most experienced. When he was 15, he sold his site for an undisclosed 7- or 8-figure sum. One of the news reports said it was probably only $1 million. So I sent him a note saying, Michael, you sold it for $1 million. You should have called me. And he wrote back and he says, Don, legally, I can't tell you how much I sold it for, but I can tell you I'm very happy. And he didn't use the money to buy a Ferrari or something, although he bought a cheap little car, but his mom had to drive around with him because he only had his learner's permit. He used the money to invest in his next new venture. It's called takingitglobal.org. It's 4 million young people on a social network, kids that want to change the world. So these kids, HP uses this term instant on. It's a good one. They want an instant on enterprise and world. And these are the 8 norms of the generation. I'd be happy to talk with you about them offline. Third theme is you put those two together, technology plus demographics, you get a social revolution. Now I could show you 50 charts, and I won't, but they're all the same. They all show the old HTML website being eclipsed by the XML-based community. The old one thought the internet was about websites. The new one understands it's about vibrant communities. The old one says we're a content creator. The new one says we create a context where people can self-organize to create their own content. The old one built a website. The new one built a vibrant community. The old one said content is king. The new one said we're a curator, not a creator. So this is a humbling kind of thing. Just a quick story on this. This is 4 years ago. My son Alex, who was 20 at the time, junior in college, I gave him an advanced copy of Wikinomics for a Christmas present. And I gave him some other things for Christmas, too. Okay. But he says, thanks, Dad. He went off, started reading the book. He came back a couple hours later. He said, hey, Dad, this is a good book. It's like he's surprised or something like that. I said, great. And he says, I think I'll create a community on Facebook. And I had just come on to Facebook then because they changed the EDU thing. And I said, can I watch? 15 minutes later, he's got this Wikinomics community. Another 15 minutes later, he's got 6 members. By the time we're eating turkey on Christmas night, he's got 130 members in 7 countries, 7 regional coordinators, a president himself, a secretary, and a chief information officer for the communities. He sent out a PDF of the first 2 chapters of the book. By the time I'm at Christmas dinner, I got kids writing in saying, Mr. Tapscott, we found errors in your book. And the community is placing demands on me. One of the kids is saying, exactly how will Mr. Tapscott be contributing to our community? It's like, what is this? Well, this is self-organization, creating a context. And you understand that, good things that can happen. Barack Obama understood it. He changed the way you got elected. I'm not sure he applied that to the way you rule and govern, and it's costing him. Again, the way I discovered this 3 years ago, someone sent me an email saying, do you know this guy Obama? He thinks your book is the key to winning the presidency and transforming America. Go to mybarackobama.com. So I go there. There's my book. It says, we believe in the principles of transparency and partnering, in the book, Wikinomics, use of the internet. And he says, I'm asking you to believe not just in my ability to bring about real change in Washington, I'm asking you to believe in yours. And I looked at this thing, and, well, my first reaction was, I am the man. But I looked a little more carefully. It turns out I'm not the man because there was a Wikinomics community, but there's also a Single Moms for Daycare for Obama community. And there's a Young Firefighters for Obama community. He created a platform whereby 35,000 communities self-organize, and that's what brought him to power. This is a revolutionary force. Now, everyone uses the term revolution, but you know what? There's actually a revolution in revolutions today. The wiki revolutions of the Arab Spring. You know the big debate, Malcolm Gladwell, the revolution will not be tweeted. I was deeply involved in that debate saying, no, Malcolm, you're a good guy, but you're wrong on this. And then reality intervened. And young people were tired of being subjects. They were coming into the workforce. They wanted to have jobs. And they wanted to participate in democratic life, and they risked their lives. They couldn't go home and give up, because if they did, the regime would hunt them down, and that's still why they're in the streets today. So you understand this power of a new communications medium, not just to drop transaction costs within the corporation, but they drop the transaction costs of dissent. Now, the final thing is that this is leading to a big change in the enterprise. And of course, that's what we're talking about today. And we've created vertically integrated hierarchies throughout the industrial age because the costs of transactions and collaboration in an open market were greater than the cost of doing things inside the boundaries of the corporation. And some of you may remember I wrote a book called Paradigm Shift a couple of decades ago, and I said, I think IT is making the boundaries of the corporation more porous. Back then we called it the extended enterprise. Then we saw companies like HP and Cisco and so on unbundle into focus companies that worked within business networks. And they were successful when their competitors tended to fall behind. And now collaboration costs are dropping so much that peers can come together and create value. You can be like Rob McEwen and find peers for your geologists. Peers in the sense of companies acting as peers. The Chinese motorcycle industry is dozens of little companies. They all cooperate together. They meet on the internet. And in tea houses, there's no OEM. There's no Harley Davidson pulling all the strings. Peers can create something like an encyclopedia or a computer operating system. Social networking is becoming a new mode of production. Social production. And this is a time of very profound change. Combine in the economic crisis, and now that's why we're all sitting here wondering, not just how do we tweak this or use the cloud or this or that, how do we provide leadership for bringing about deep changes in our enterprise? So you'll read, these are my 5 principles of how we need to rebuild all of our institutions, corporations, government, you name it, around a new set of principles. So I'm going to wrap up then by just posing to you this challenge of leadership, because I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to be in business. The opportunities are just huge. But there's never been a more exciting time to be an IT executive, because you're sort of like that Janus, one side to the business and one to technology, and you're at the center of, I think, the biggest change to the enterprise, probably, in a century. So when all is said and done, sure, there's lots of danger and peril and everything, but if we take a different route and rebuild these institutions around a new medium of communications and a new set of principles, the future can be a bright one. Let me end with a short little video where I want to just talk to you about a big idea. Towards the end of the book, Anthony and I started wondering, what does an age of networked intelligence look like? And how would it be fundamentally different from the industrial age? And we'd studied hundreds and hundreds of human cases, and we decided that we'd go to nature to try and learn something from that. And we discovered something called a murmuration. Fish come in schools, sheep come in flocks, starlings over the moors of England come in something called a murmuration. And throughout the day, the starlings are out over a 20-mile radius, and they're sort of doing their starling thing. They're foraging for food and so on. And at night, they come together, and they create one of the most spectacular things in all of nature. It's called a murmuration in reference to the murmuring of the wings of the birds. And the murmuration is not just for show. It has many functions. It warms the birds up for the cold night ahead. And because of the collective power of the birds, it protects them. Look on the right. You can see a predator being chased away by the smaller birds. There's no one leader, but there is leadership. Leadership is constantly changing. It's sort of a collaborative kind of leadership that occurs. And scientists that have studied this say they've never seen an accident. You're functioning on the basis of some principles. We do this together. We must always keep moving and don't bump into the next. And when the moment is right, this spectacular thing happens. Now, this is not some kind of collective intelligence, because starlings are not intelligent as creatures, and they don't have consciousness, but humans do. And it made us wonder, what would it mean for us to be able to connect ourselves and our brains through these vast networks of glass and of air? could we go beyond just sharing information and knowledge to start to share our intellect? Maybe to create some kind of intelligence or even consciousness that transcends an individual. Well, if we could do that, maybe many of the things in the enterprise that have eluded us could be achieved. Take the learning organization. You've all read about that. Well, organizations that aren't conscious can't learn. Maybe some kind of consciousness is a precondition for organizational learning. Now, I don't know if this is a fanciful analogy or if there's something there, but I look at those kids today in the streets, back in the streets now in Egypt, to take this to the next level, and throughout the Arab Spring. And they're using the internet to build collective strength. You know, they protected themselves from murderers. In Tunisia, snipers from the old regime, and in Egypt, were shooting unarmed kids in the street. They geolocated the snipers and sent the photos to friendly units in the military who came in and took out the snipers. The internet can be used as a tool to collectively defend ourselves from killers. And I look at this thing and, I don't know, I get great hope. Because, you know, a great philosopher, George Santayana, said, we should welcome the future, for soon it will be the past. But we should respect the past, for it was once all that was humanly possible. Well, we did what was possible in the enterprise, but arguably, it's now possible to go forward. And maybe if we can extend out through network intelligence, this age will be one of promise fulfilled and of peril unrequited. One thing for sure is the next period for you will not be boring. So thanks very much. Thank you.